As I have said before, while the present protocol arrangements remain in place, it cannot be business as usual for North-South relations. This means we must respond not just in words, but in actions as well. We attended the North-South Ministerial Council plenary meeting in July as an act of good faith and to give some space for issues to be resolved. That has not happened. I believe now is the time to act. Therefore, as the protocol issues remain unresolved, the DUP will immediately withdraw from the structures of Strand 2 of the Belfast Agreement relating to North-South arrangements, while we will ensure that important health-related matters continue to be addressed on a cooperative basis. I do so in the full knowledge of the knock-on effects that such a move may have and the instability that may result. Not something I want to happen. But we simply cannot go on like this. The threat to the political institutions is not from our withdrawal from Strand 2. The threat to the political institutions is from the protocol itself. The second step I intend to take relates to the operation of the protocol. Bad as it has been, to date, the full impact of the protocol has not yet been felt. This is partly because of the grace periods, and partly because the checks that are required by the protocol are not being implemented in full. We have not yet experienced the full impact of the protocol, but merely what some have described as protocol light. But consider even the damage this has done to our economy and political stability. I do not pretend that there are easy answers when the law requires one thing and politics demands something else. Though some unionists would like to, we cannot wish away the fact that the Northern Ireland Protocol is part of domestic law. However, I believe that we can use our position in ministerial office to the benefit of the people of Northern Ireland. No one can be in any doubt that the ending of the grace periods would have a devastating impact on Northern Ireland. That is not something I am prepared to countenance or be a party to. Nor should any elected politician in Northern Ireland who cares for our people consider that the ending of the grace periods is something to be welcome. Therefore, regardless of what the position is of the UK government or that of the EU, in the future, DUP ministers will seek to block any additional checks at the ports in Northern Ireland that arise from the Northern Ireland Protocol. And I believe they should have a solid legal basis to do so. Any decision to intensify checks would have the most profound and significant impact on Northern Ireland. Under the Northern Ireland Act, such a decision to intensify checks could only be implemented following a decision of the Northern Ireland Executive. In such circumstances, neither the Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs Minister, my colleague Edwin Poots, nor his officials have any powers to intensify checks in the absence of executive agreement. On behalf of the DUP, I want to make it quite clear that DUP ministers will use their votes at the executive to frustrate any such additional checks now or in the future. Thirdly, we are also examining the legality of the current checks and whether they should have required prior executive approval as well. We are also exploring whether there is any scope to limit or eradicate the existing checks at the ports, which are in addition to those which were in force at the end of 2020. Legal advice has offered ministers very little room for manoeuvre in this regard, and flexibilities have been exploited already to the maximum. However, we are seeking to revisit this issue to examine every available option to frustrate the imposition of these unnecessary checks on goods travelling from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. In the final analysis, those who are democratically elected by the people of Northern Ireland lack the power to prevent such checks. If that is the case, if our ministers cannot in the end prevent these checks taking place, and if the protocol issues remain, then I have to be clear. The position in office of DUP ministers would become untenable. If the choice is ultimately between remaining in office or implementing the protocol in its present form, then the only option for any unionist minister would be to cease to hold such office. This is particularly the case in circumstances where the government is proceeding to implement the New Decade New Approach Agreement in a partial and one-sided way by legislating for a culture package at Westminster at a time when the government has not delivered on its pledge within the New Decade New Approach Agreement in relation to restoring Northern Ireland's place in the UK single market. This is not, I repeat, not a sustainable position. Within weeks it will become clear if there is a basis for the Assembly and Executive to continue in this current mandate, and I want that to happen. But equally, we will also need to consider whether there is a need for an Assembly election to refresh our mandate if action is not taken to address and resolve the issues related to the protocol and its impact, its damaging impact on Northern Ireland each and every day. Fourthly and finally, in order to maintain the adherence of Northern Ireland to EU law as it evolves, there is a requirement for Northern Ireland departments and the Northern Ireland Assembly to pass regulations to reflect decisions that are taken at an EU level. It has been said before, but it will be the policy of the DUP to seek to frustrate and to prevent such alignment. We cannot and will not accept a situation where we are required to endorse and implement EU laws whilst having no say whatsoever in how those laws are formulated. The Northern Ireland Protocol requires certain aspects of EU law to apply in Northern Ireland, but this can only happen if they are incorporated into Northern Ireland law. Over time, a failure to incorporate such law will mean that Northern Ireland will increasingly diverge from EU law and would ultimately undermine the operation of the EU single market. As a party, we are pledged to make sure that this happens. We will not support the imposition of EU laws in Northern Ireland that have been formulated without democratic input from the people of this part of the United Kingdom. Whilst the UK government, of course, has the power to introduce such regulations at Westminster, to do so in a blanket fashion, I believe, would ultimately undermine the credibility of the devolved settlement, and that is not something that we can accept. I have said, and I've repeated this morning, that we are totally opposed to the protocol as it presently exists. We will neither accept it nor will we work it. In my assessment, the time frame for resolving issues can be measured in weeks, not months or years. As I have also said, doing nothing is not a sustainable or a tenable position. There will be those who will be critical of these announcements today, but I need to be clear. I take these actions not to undermine our carefully balanced constitutional arrangements, but to protect them. In July, the government took what might have been the first step out of the protocol with the command paper, but it will ultimately be judged by what it does next. It would be a tragedy if the gains of the last 2 decades were put at risk, and if Northern Ireland was plunged back into economic difficulties and political crisis. This would not be good for unionism or good for Northern Ireland. But for our part, we will work to do all in our power to make sure that this does not happen. In spite of all the difficulties that we face, I remain hopeful that we can still emerge from this period with arrangements which can command widespread support within Northern Ireland. Arrangements that do not offend unionists, nationalists or others. And crucially, arrangements which will allow us to create the kind of stability that will be good for investment and economic prosperity. The prize of a successful outcome is not just for unionism, but for all of Northern Ireland. And it is not just for the UK, but for the EU as well. Just imagine how a new deal, which satisfies all sides, could transform relationships within Northern Ireland and with the European Union. or what a deal that genuinely represented a better way forward would mean for our potential and our future. Think how a stable long-term deal could allow us to plan for the future, and how it could allow the UK to rebuild its crucial relationship with the European Union in a challenging and dangerous world. It surely cannot be beyond us to reach an agreement that can allow progress to be made and our peace process to be secured. I will not be found wanting to do all in my power to ensure that we can reach solutions to the problems that we face. But nor should there be any doubt that I will not resile from the actions that I have set out before you this morning. Thank you.